الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك اللهم إني أسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا ربي إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير رب اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي إنك أنت الوهاب إنك أنت الوهاب إنك أنت الوهاب آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again. Alhamdulillah, we are studying Surah Al Baqarah, and today we are going to talk about ayah number 261 till 263, the three ayat from Surah Al Baqarah. So we will start with the word by word meaning, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم.
مثل example, and we've learned mathalu, mithal, mathalu. So the same word, mim, sa, and la. So it means an example, a simile, something similar to something else. So mathalu, the example, alladhina, of those who, yunfiquna, comes from nafaka. Yunfikuna, and we've learned this word before. Yunfikuna, nafaka is like a lizard's hole from one side to the other. So something comes from one side and goes from another. Munafik is from here as well in a negative sense, because for munafik, what happens is the deen comes from one side, goes from another. He always has the other door open for himself. He never fully commits to the deen. He commits to the deen only on the outer basis, but then his heart is somewhere else. But Yunfikun also comes in the meaning of spending, and we've learned this before as well, because what happens in Yunfikun is the money comes from one side and then it flows. The money is flowing, it goes from the other side. That is, it is spent, it is not like hoarded. The example of those who spent, Yunfikuna, they spent, amwalahum, their wealth. Mal is something that a person owns, and it could be in the form of money, it could be in the form of house, it could be in the form of wealth, in the form of jewelry, it could be in the form of any assets that a person holds, a car that a person has, or any resources, any clothes, anything else that a person holds. It could be a talent, it could be a time that a person has. So whatever we have, our mal is basically used for wealth, but it could include other things too. But anything that we own, anything that is in our milkiyat. So anything that I own, it does not mean that the thing that my father owns or my husband owns or my, so it is something that is mine, that is mine to do something. So that is my mal. So example of those who spend of their wealth, whatever they own, and that could be small, that could be big, doesn't matter, whatever Allah Ta'ala has given us. So whatever there is their wealth, fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah. Sabil is a path. Sabil basically means something that connects two things. So which is basically a path. Like what a path does is a path connects the place of our origin, where we start from, and it connects us to our destination. So that's a path. Fi sabilillah, it is in the path of Allah. So fi sabilillah is a Quranic term used many times in the Quran, and it is used in the sense of something that helps us connect to Allah, something that we do for the sake of Allah, something that is something that we do and that connects us, in the sense that it is a way that brings us together with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It connects our heart, it connects ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what this example that Allah Ta'ala is giving us is, and there's a whole study of examples in the Quran. There's a whole study of the different kinds of examples in the Quran and the beauty of these examples. Like there are scholars who spent their lifetimes on just studying the examples in the Quran, and they've extracted such beautiful things from every example in the Quran. We've studied some already in Surah Baqarah, and we study them throughout the Quran, and that's one of the literary beauties as well of the Quran. So, mathalul ladina yunfikuna, the example of those who spent their wealth, amwalahum, whom refers to their. So, their wealth in the path of Allah, kamathali, is like those who, is like that, is like what? Habbatin. Habbatin comes from ha, ba, ba, and it refers to a grain, a little grain that is put inside the soil, and then it produces whatever it produces on the outside and the inside of the soil, right? And habba, hababa is also used for love. Like the Prophet ﷺ is called Habibullah, right? The person who's loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hababa is, we also say in, we'll see a lot of people, Arab people saying, Ya Habibi, like, oh my love, like that. That's a endearment of saying something. Ya Habibti, right? When you say Habibti, it's like you're saying to a female and you're saying, oh my love, like as a means of showing your endearment, your love to somebody, right? So like the friends who are really good friends, a girl would say to her friend, oh Habibti, oh my dear love, right? So that's to her sister, and it's said a lot to sisters in Islam. They would say to each other, Ya Habibti, right? So Hababa is for love, and the similarity between love and the grain is that the love also goes inside, and it goes inside the heart, and then when love for anything or anyone settles in the heart, it produces some result too. Just like a seed, when it is put in the ground and there is some effort that is put on it, then something comes out of it. Similarly, when the love goes in the heart, and when some effort is put into that love, whatever kind of love it is. So for example, if somebody loves their husband, or somebody loves their children, what they do is there is a love in their heart, then they do something for that love. And if, like for example, it's our children, then we will make food for our children, we will take care of their basic needs, we'll take care, we'll be worried about their tarbiyah, we'll be making dua for them, we'll be doing things for our children, we'll be running around for them, we'll be doing things for them that we might not take out time to do for other children in the world, but we'll take out time for them that we would not take out for other children, although other children are the same, like flesh, two eyes, one nose, one mouth. They're similar children, but the kind of love we feel for our children makes us do extra, right? So there is love involved, and that love requires some effort. There's love in the heart that requires some effort, and it has a result, because then our children also feel attached to us. They feel safe and secure with us and things like that. So there is an impact of that love. So it is such a beautiful example, and we'll go a little bit more detail, inshallah. So the example is like that of a grain. Ambatat, it grows. Sab'a is for seven. Sab'a sanabila. Sanabila is ears. Like when a grain, if we look at any grain that grows, like for wheat or rice or something, then it grows ears. It grows these little branches that come out of it. Fi kulli sumbulatin, and in each of these years, like, so what happens whenever, and we see this every day, we see in this farming, we see it in crops, what happens is there's a seed that grows, then that from that seed, there are different little branches that come out, and then in each branch or in each year, there are mi'atu habba, 100 of grains. Like, it's not, obviously it is figurative, it doesn't mean exactly 100 if we count, it could be 99, it could be 101, it could be less or more, but basically a lot of. There's and then in each grain, in each branch, there's a lot of grains again. So this is how Allah Ta'ala grows. Allah Ta'ala is giving an example of how when something is spent in the path of Allah, how does it grow? This is how it grows. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yudaifu, that he gives manifold, he multiplies it, he gives manifold, liman yasha, liman, li, to, man, whom, to whoever, yasha'u, from the same as like we say insha'Allah, like you say masha'Allah, right? Sha'a is like the will of Allah, right? The will. So liman yasha, like to whoever he wills. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wasi'un alim. And we are learning two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here. Wasi', like he has a lot of wusat. Wusat means that something all-encompassing, something vast, and it's like it includes everything really. It's so wasiya. Wasiya means like he's so so broad, so wide, so vast, so all-encompassing. It's not we our minds cannot even comprehend how encompassing he is, but that's what he is, and he is alim as well. He knows everything. So in Allah, in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain which grows seven spikes, and in each spike is 100 grains. And Allah multiplies His reward for whom He wills. And Allah is all encompassing and all knowing. Then the next ayah, ayah number 262. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله.
الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذى لهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
So this first part of the phrase is repeated from the previous ayah. So alladhina, those who yunfiquna, they spend amwalahum, their wealth, fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah, thumma, then, la yutbi'una, they do not follow it. Taba'a, we've learned it before. Taba'a, like ittiba, we do the ittiba of whom? We do the ittiba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he showed us. Allah Ta'ala sent him to show us the way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we follow him. We follow his footsteps, literally. So ittiba is to follow somebody's footsteps. So to follow something or somebody. So what these people did do is, these people who spent in the way of Allah, then la yutbi'una, they do not follow this spending, ma anfaqu, what they spent, with what? With mannan. Mannan is like to show somebody your favor, to keep reminding them, you know what, I did this for you. You know what, like you know what, when you were hungry and then everything, you know, you didn't have anything and then I fed you. Or you know, when you were little and you couldn't take care of yourself, I was the one who did this. I was the one who did that. To keep reminding someone of the favors that you've done for them, like to show their favor, and to show your favor in different ways. So that is in a negative sort of a way. So this means that it is a reminder of the generosity, reminding somebody. That is mannan. Wala adha, and not adha. Adha, we learned before that adha means hurt, to give somebody any kind of injury or any kind of hurt. So basically, what do these people do who are spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That they do not follow their spending. They don't give their money and then keep reminding the other person, I give this, nor do they cause any hurt because of it. You know, like, okay, now I have given you $1,000. Now you need to do this for me. You know, or now you need to do that for me. Or they do not hurt that person in any, and adhan could be hurt in any sort of a way. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be spiritual, it could be emotional, it could be any kind of hurt. That is all encompassed in adha. So they do not follow it with reminders of generosity or any hurt. Then for these people, lahum, for them, whom we are going back to the people who are alladhina yunfikuna, that those people who are spending. For them, then, if they're not following it up with this, then ajruhum, then their reward, ajar and hum. So it is their reward. It is for grammar students, mudaf mudaf ilayh, that this is ajar of theirs. So their ajar, and the is with rabbihim, their Lord. Wala, and first they have a reward with their Lord, and then there is something else as well. Wala khawfun, and for them there will be no khawf, no fear, alayhim, upon them. Ala and him come together to make alayhim. There will be no fear upon them. Wala hum yahzanun, and they will not grieve. Huzn is grief. So they will not have any grief as well. So here Allah Ta'ala is telling us, those who spent their wealth in the way of Allah and they do not follow up what they have spent with reminders of it or any injury, they will have their reward with their Lord, and there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. Then ayah 263.
قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم.
قول is a word that is spoken. When we say qala, it means like he said. Qawl is a word that is said, right? So it's a noun. So qawlun, a word, ma'rufun, that is ma'ruf, something that is well known, something that is kind, something that has compassion in it, something that is not hurtful to another person. So a word that is kind, wa maghfiratun, and maghfirah is forgiveness, and forgiveness, khayrun, is better. These two, speaking a good word and forgiveness, this is better min sadaqatin, than a charity, which is, and not just any charity, a charity which is yatba'uha, which is followed, which is, this charity has been followed. Ha is going back to the sadaqah, a charity which is followed by adha, which is followed by hurt. So a kind word and forgiveness is better than doing a charity and then following it by hurt. Wallahu ghaniyun halim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all sufficient. He's free of any need. Again, the two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are learning in this ayah, that Allah ta'ala is all sufficient. He's free of any kind of need, and He is halim, meaning He's forbearing. And hilm is one of the qualities that is said a lot of times in the Quran for Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he had the quality of hilm in him. And but obviously halim, which is the exaggerated form, which is just like rahim, one of another name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rahim, is a mercy that lasts forever. It continues and it lasts forever. Similarly, Halim, forbearing, it is a nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is exaggerated forms, and it is something that will stay forever. And that is a lot, that is all forbearing. There's nothing and nobody who can be forbearing like him. Like he has, again, we learned about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they are that we learned before, that the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have those qualities and we see some reflection of what that quality means in human beings as well. But then obviously nobody can reach that level that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, no, nor can anybody have it in have that quality from the beginning till the end, right? We all were given that quality, and then these qualities were given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even expression of those qualities, human beings can only express so much, and it is the true expression of that quality obviously comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, and the way he shows it. So in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala is telling us, kind speech and forgiveness, they are better than charity followed by injury. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of need and He is forbearing. So we'll go in a little bit more detail. The first ayah, 261, that the example of those who spent their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain which grows 7 spikes. Each spike has 100 grains, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies his reward for whomever He wills, and He is all encompassing, all knowing. So firstly, in this section of Surah Baqarah, now we are in the last section literally of Surah Baqarah, and we learn a lot about financial matters in this, in this passage and everything. And it started a little bit before Ayat al-Kursi. Before Ayat al-Kursi, in ayah number 254, we were told to spend for the sake of Allah. And then after that, before telling us more details about financial rulings and what should we do with our money and what should we do with our wealth, Allah Ta'ala told us first who He is. Who are we doing this for in ayah 255, which is Ayat al-Kursi, that who are we spending for? And once we understand Tawheed, once we understand who Allah Ta'ala is, who is the one who's giving life and who's the one who's giving us what we have, and who's the one who's keeping us maintained, and who we are giving for, then it becomes easier for us to spend. Then that we understand who are we giving this for. And then in ayah number 256 to 260, we learned about different tawud, different things, or different kind of tawud that try to stop us from this spending, because it's only when we understand those things that try to stop us and we are able to overcome us, then we'll be able to do it. And then now from ayah 261 onwards, we learn about different ways of spending our money and what should we do and how should we take care of our financial matters and everything. And one thing that we learned, and through the different ayat that we learn for some time now, is that if this kind of system is followed totally, like whatever Allah Ta'ala is teaching us about economic matters and everything, before that He told us about individual matters. First of all, turn your face towards the Qibla, and once the new Ummah is formed, then He told us that start praying towards that and everything. And once the new Ummah is formed, He's telling us how to live our life, how to be a Muslim, then how to be a part of the Muslim Ummah. So we learned about individual matters, individual individual worship. Then we learned about our family matters, right? After individual, that comes the family. That what does a marriage mean? What does it mean to take care of your children and things like that? And then and the matters of marriage and divorce and things like that. And then we learning about the community, social, how do we behave with people? What happens in the term of war? There is war that might happen too. It's a reality of life too. And now we are learning about financial matters, which is another pillar of our existence. And if followed totally, an ideal economic order will be established. And this will solve all the economic problems of the world. And of course, we see that different kind of systems that are followed: capitalism, socialism, communism. And in the even if you look at the history of the last 200 years, we see there are so many different isms, so many different kind of systems. And now all these systems are sort of competing with each other, and there's a lot of like uh, fighting between them and everything to establish which system is better. Capitalism is better, or socialism better, or communism is better. But then nothing has, if we look at any of these systems around the world, and we have different examples of different parts of the world, but we see nowhere has this system solved all any of these systems solved all the problems, right? And but if we look at the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the perfect wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then if that is followed, and the trouble is that even the countries that are say to themselves that they're Muslim countries, they are not following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they were, then it would have solved all their economic problems and everything, and it would have led them to flourish and everything. So whether it is individual matters or it is community matters, we look at the financial guidance also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, when we are living in a system, it is we cannot change other people. We cannot change the systems. So sometimes we are stuck in a system, and of course we are all living at a time that me and you, we don't make financial laws. We don't make the system that we are living in. We don't make the banks. We don't make the other things that we are living in. So what do? We do the best that we can within the system that we are, because we cannot. I cannot say, okay, I'll keep my money separate. I will not do anything that everybody's doing. I will not put in the bank. I will not do this. I will not do that. I cannot do it because that's where I cannot survive. Whatever I can do on my individual basis, I keep doing it. And inshallah ta'ala, Allah ta'ala will keep expanding our circle of influence as well. Like as long as our concern is big and we keep doing whatever within our reach, then inshallah Allah ta'ala will help us in other areas too, and open up more and more ways for us to get closer to him and do things in a way that he wants us to do. And in this passage, we learn that in a few weeks that we go ahead, we learn that there are three ways to spend that Allah Ta'ala primarily that Allah Ta'ala has told us. One is to give in Allah's way and don't ask anything in return, which is sadaqah, khairat, zakat. We are giving things, we are doing things for the sake of Allah. We're giving it in Allah's way. We are spending whatever we have, which is extra to our needs. We are spending it to help the poor and the needy, to help serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do whatever. And we are not asking anything in return from anybody else except obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then that is the best way of spending our money. That's the excellent way. And then there is the next way, which is to give people some loan, or to lend somebody some money who's in a temporary need or even a long-term need, and then ask them to return it to you without any interest. Now that is allowed. Giving loans is not Giving loans or taking loans is not something that is disliked in Islam. That is allowed, but it is the interest which is haram, right? So what is the difference here? Because the concept of giving a loan to somebody in Islam is, when you give a loan to somebody, you don't give a loan to somebody to make money. The concept of giving loan to somebody in Islam is to help somebody out. So because some people say that, okay, if I was to give a loan to somebody for 1 year, and in that 1 year I could have invested this money somewhere else and I could have made this money, so I'm losing out. I'm losing out on all this money that I would have earned if I would have invested it somewhere or given it out on interest or something and everything. Yes, but in the seen world, in something that we are seeing in our hand, yes, it might look like that, but we are the people who believe in the unseen. We believe that if something is against the commands of Allah, then there is no khair and barakah in it. So and the loans is and we do give loans. We might need to take loans as well at some time. If we are able to, it's best to do it without interest as much as possible. and that is allowed. If it is without interest, then there's no harm in it. So for example, a lot of scholars nowadays say that we need to use credit cards. So what we do, so one thing is, if you need to have credit cards to be able to pay and things like that, make sure you make sure you make the full payment before your due date, so that way no interest is incurred on it, right? So you're having a credit card, you're using it, but you're not paying interest on it. And the third way of spending, so that's the second way of spending money. The third way of spending money is giving to someone who is in need, giving some money to somebody who's in need, and taking it back with interest. And that's the worst way of spending money, right? So there is a best way, there is a medium way, which is allowed, and then there is a worst way, which is not allowed. So we learn about different things in through the Quran. And in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala is telling us that you spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you give, let's say, one thing, and what do you get back? You get back loads and loads. And Allah Ta'ala has given an example of a grain that is put in the soil, then the farmer, and with the grain, what do we see? That when a grain is put in the soil, there's some effort that is been to put into it, and something grows out of it. So when we spend our money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is an effort that is needed, like we need to find out about who can we spend on, and we are looking constantly for, okay, is this cause a good cause, or is this person, is this genuine, is this not genuine, and how do we help this person, and what is the best way to give them the money? Is it best to give this person the money, or is it best to give them, or if we know there are some people who are, let's say, addicts in their family, then probably giving money might not be a good idea, because they might steal from this person or harass this person for money. Then maybe it's best to send some grains or food and everything in that person's family. There might be different things. So there might be, even in, besides giving things to people, we might have to actually put a lot of effort otherwise as well for all that. And that kind of we learn from this example of grains. So what happens is, this grain that we put, and it gives 7 years, that Allah Ta'ala has said here, and 7 years, and then each year has 100 grains as well. So what we are getting back from one grain is 700 grains. So basically what you're putting it is, you're putting in one unit and you're getting 700 back. So if we think of it in terms of investment, nowhere in the world do we get this kind of return on investment, that it is like 700% return on investment, right? And investment world, we find out, okay, if I put in, if I'm going to invest in this company or in this stock or in this something, if I put in $100, then how much am I going to get back? Over a period of 1 year, I'm going to get this much or that much or whatever. But Allah Ta'ala is telling us that this kind of return, the kind of return that you can't even imagine, which is 700% at least, right? And what we learn from the use of the word yunfiquna, nafaqa, is that we get wealth, we keep receiving wealth, and we keep spending from it as well. We keep utilizing whatever we need, and we keep spending, right? So one thing that Islam teaches us is to not hoard on to wealth. So and what generally is, if we look at different examples around us too, anything where something gets stopped, then a clot forms up, right? So for example, if there is water in the pipes, and if the water keeps flowing, then the pipes will stay open. But if it stops at one place, then it creates a blockage. Right? Similarly, in the blood in our body, when it keeps flowing, then everything's working fine. But if something somewhere it stops for some kind of blockage and everything, then there's problems that start to happen. Similarly, with wealth, what Islam wants is that the money should keep rotating in the economy. The rotation of money, when that keeps happening, then economies and finances of nation would be better. And there is, but why we see poverty around us is because some people hold on to a lot of money. And once they start holding on to money, they want more and more. There's no end to human greed, because once you get more, then you want to have more. 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 So what Islam wants is don't keep it. Held on. Yes, keep a little bit for your savings. It doesn't say that don't have any savings at all, but what it means is that don't be so attached to wealth that you're just holding on. Learn to spend as well. Spending, Allah Ta'ala teaches us to spend on your family, spend on yourself, as much as is needed. No harm in that. Don't be extravagant, but spend on yourself as is needed. Spend on your family, spend on your relatives, spend on your community, spend on other places. And we've learned that before as well. We're all to spend on, and we learned other places in the Quran too. And spent on business as well. Spent on trade. No problem in that. Don't keep it lying down and then keep. So it's a human tendency that what we do is we like to have money, and then we like to keep counting how much we have and everything. And may Allah forgive us, but that's a tendency that we have, all of us. And What Allah Ta'ala is teaching us is spend. And especially when you're spending, spend for the sake of Allah. Spend for the sake of seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And spend for the sake of fi sabilillah would also mean spend for the sake of for the sake of spreading the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and spread it in a way that is in accordance with the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't spend it in a way that is not allowed and everything. And there could be many ways of spending for the sake of Allah. For example, we could feed somebody who's hungry, somebody who's an orphan, somebody who's a miskin, somebody who cannot help themselves, some people who are prisoners, some people who are caught in certain situations, and who are one beautiful way is to feed people, because uh, an empty stomach is no person can do anything on an empty stomach, literally, if you're hungry for too long. So we need to what one way we could spend is to feed people. Another way is to give our wealth, like to relatives, to orphans, to people who are in need and everything. And we've learned that in ayah 177 before, like different ways of spending. And so we can spend on the people, the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we can spend to spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all this, the return of all this, Allah ta'ala has kept in his own hands, right? The return of all this is in Allah's hand. And subhanallah, what we can do is, sometimes if we start to feel a little bit like, okay, I'm doing this, I don't know what will happen. One way that some scholars say is, pick up a grain of rice, pick up a grain of wheat, and look at it, and then think about it, that from this one seed, if Allah wills, if a farmer puts it and then Allah wills for it to grow, then Allah Ta'ala can produce more than 700 seeds from just this one seed that I see in my hand, this little tiny seed, and Allah Ta'ala could produce so much. And we see this in farming every day. Similarly, in Akhirah, Allah Ta'ala will make our one amal to be so big that we would be amazed. And how amazed we will be! Allah Ta'ala is the one who's wasi'. He has wusat, right? He can give, and he can give so much that we'll be amazed. We'll be like, wow, where did all this come from? And so one example that one of our teacher gives is that there was one person who, and you might have heard of this before as well, that one person who was there was time for salah, and he was in a parking lot, and he didn't know, like the time was running out. He said, okay, what to do? He just got out in the parking lot, and he put his prayer mat, and he started praying there and everything. And somebody saw him praying. This person who was praying, this Muslim who was praying, he didn't even know that anybody's watching him. He was just praying, and somebody came to get another of his car, or somebody came in the parking lot to get his car to go out or whatever. And then this person saw this Muslim person praying. He had no idea what Islam is. He had no idea what praying is. He had no idea about religion or anything at all. But this person saw him praying in the parking lot, and he's like, okay, this is weird. And he just saw, and then he saw for a bit, and then he went away. The person who was praying had no idea. Even when he finished his prayer, he had no idea that anybody was watching him even. Now this person, the other person who was seeing him, he went home. He was like, okay, this person was doing some weird movements, and it seemed like, okay, was it some kind of an exercise? What was he doing? And seemed like he didn't even care what anybody else is around him or whatever. I looked at him, he didn't even notice, and he kept on doing what he's doing. So he Googled it, and he found out what was going on and everything. And basically slowly but surely, it made him curious. He tried to find out more and more and more, and he found about Islam, and he kept finding out more and more and more. And eventually Allah Ta'ala guided his heart to Islam, and this person became a Muslim. But then this person didn't just become a Muslim, he became a Hafiz of the Quran, he became an alim, he progressed to do so much. And then there are thousands of people who studied from this one person, and this one person also taught so many people, and there was so much. His children became Muslim, and his generations became Muslim after him. And because of all that he did and everything, and then he taught so many people whose next generations became closer to Islam. And then maybe this person did a lot of dawah, because of whom many other people became Muslims as well. And obviously then when they became Muslim, then their coming generations. So it's not just when one person becomes Muslim, it's not just that one person, because their coming generations also become closer to Islam. And then this person, imagine that this person who is in a parking lot, who just all that he or she did was, he just praised one namaz. He didn't even know anybody was watching him. He didn't even know if his namaz was accepted or not. He just prayed that one namaz. It was just like literally took 5 minutes. He prayed his namaz and he went away. He didn't do anything else. Yet on the day of judgment, he'll be amazed that that one namaz, when Allah Ta'ala, that one salah, how Allah Ta'ala blessed him for this thing that he did for the sake of Allah, that like he has mountains upon mountains upon mountains of good deeds written for him, that he will look at it and he'll be say, Ya Allah, for one salah, you gave me so much, you gave me so much, so many people, and the reward of, all the people who became Muslim through this other person who watched, like thousands upon thousands of people until the day of judgment, and then the reward of every salah of every person who became Muslim. So it's not just the person who became Muslim. Whoever became Muslim, their salah, their reading of Quran, they're studying for the sake of Allah, they're doing charity for the sake of Allah, whatever they do for the sake of Allah, their reward doesn't go less, but then this person also gets all that reward. So we can imagine the kind of reward there is. And when Allah Ta'ala blesses someone, then we might not even know. We might be thinking, Ya Allah, I don't know whether this was even accepted. I don't know if it was even worth it. I was just like, I just prayed quickly. I don't know if my mind was even there or not. It was so hard for me to pray, but then I just prayed and that's it. But Allah knows how hard it was. You had to take a detour, you had to stop in that parking lot just for the sake of praying your salah. And Allah Ta'ala knows what he did, what you did, how much effort you did for that one thing, which might seem so little to anybody else. But to Allah Ta'ala, it was not little. To Allah, it was, and He is wasiya. When He rewards like, He rewards in a way that we are amazed. We are like, Ya Allah, who can reward like this? Who can appreciate us like Allah Ta'ala does? There's nobody who can appreciate us like Allah does. And He's also Alim. He's also Alim, meaning He knows who is doing what with what intention. I might be weak. I might be a very weak person. I might be a very weak believer. I might be a very weak thing. But then when I have just $10, nobody else knows that I don't have anything else. I have just these $10 and I see somebody and I give those $10 and I was like, and I go home and I'm like, I don't know what am I going to do tomorrow. What am I going to do today evening? But Allah knows. And He knows with what intention I gave. If I gave for the sake of Allah, He knows. And He will, even if people around me think, ah, just $10. Like see people around you, they're giving $1,000 for this cause, they're giving this, and you're giving $10. To other people, it might seem nothing. But then to Allah, that those $10 are more precious than $1,000,000 that somebody else might be giving. So he knows what intention we have when we are doing anything for His sake, and He also knows under what circumstances we are doing something. He knows how hard something is for us. He knows how easy something is for us, and he knows every little thing that we are doing. He knows how hard it is for us to smile, and we are smiling when we are frustrated, when we are angry, when we are tired, and yet we meet another person and we are smiling for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. We are doing something, something's irritating us, and yet we are continuing for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. No good deed that we do is hidden from Allah. When a seed is there underground, then it might be hidden from people, but it is not hidden from Allah Ta'ala. No deed, not even an atom's worth of what we do, will be left without being rewarded. Allah, and anybody who spends wholeheartedly with deep faith and in difficult circumstances, that person will have more reward. The reward is much more, right? And sometimes when we have difficult circumstances, what we don't realize is that maybe Allah Ta'ala is multiplying our rewards. If our circumstances were easy, then doing that same thing might not have got us that much reward. But we have a limited lifetime, and Allah Ta'ala wants to increase our rewards. So sometimes He makes our circumstances slightly difficult. Subhanallah, it's only somebody who loves us this much can do this for us, that He wants to increase our reward. He wants, yeah, he wants His servant not just to just earn this much. He wants them to earn 10 times more. So He just makes the circumstances slightly difficult, so that but He still gives us the ability to spend, and He still makes it easy for us to spend or do something for His sake. And then He increases our reward. Every tawfiq is from Him, and yet He increases our reward, and He keeps on increasing our reward. And that's how wasi He is. That's how much alim He is. And some things that we get from this example, there are many many things to be said, but just a few of some things is that when a farmer is putting a seed, then what does he do to get more crop? There are some things that a farmer can do, some things that he can take care of to make sure that the produce is more, right? So there's some things he takes care of. First thing is that to have a good seed, to begin with, right? And our scholar said, just like we look at a seed that has to be good, our intentions have to be good. Our intentions have to be for the sake of Allah. That if I'm doing something for the sake of people, then I'll expect things from people. But if I'm doing something for the sake of Allah, then I don't even care if anybody likes what I'm doing, not likes what I'm doing, if anybody says to me thank you, or if anybody just brushes me or starts to insult me. On the other hand, it doesn't even matter because I'm doing it for Allah. My niyyah is for Allah, right? And it is in accordance with our niyyah. How good our niyyah is, how good our intention it is, that somebody might get a 10 times reward of what they're doing, somebody might get a 700 times, and somebody might get 7,000 times or even more. And there is no end to how much more, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wasiya, that there is no end to how much He can give. And Allah Ta'ala tells us in one of the hadith, and it is such a beautiful hadith that but I'm just saying a part of that hadith, that if Allah Ta'ala were to give each human being and each jinn were to come together from the beginning of time to the end of time, every human being and every jinn comes and asks Allah whatever they can think of asking. They ask whatever they want and desire and need, and everything that they want, they ask Allah. And Allah Ta'ala were to give everybody everything that they needed, still his treasures would not be depleted by one bit. The simile that they're given is given there, this from an ocean. If you put a needle in an ocean and take the needle out, then the kind of water that the ocean loses by that needle being dipped in the water and taken out, that even that much, there will not be even that much loss in Allah's treasure if you were to give everybody everything. This is how wasi, and how much how rich, and how much blessings Allah Ta'ala has with him. So there's no limit to what he can give us. It is more and more and more, right? And another other things that a farmer takes care of is that he plants in a fertile land, right? So when we put money, we see which project or which field or which person or which place are we giving to, right? And from is it a place that we give to one which is going to benefit one time, or which is going to benefit perennially, again and again and again. So for example, I could feed somebody who's homeless on the street. I could do that. That's a reward. Yes, I get some reward, alhamdulillah. But if I send some food to be fed to some people, some orphans who are doing their hifz, who are learning the Quran, and who are going to become, and first they are orphans, then there is an added reward on spending on them. Then they are doing their hifz, and they're memorizing the Quran, they're studying the Quran, they're spending time learning the Quran, and then they are going to be spent, they whatever I spent on them, whatever energy, food, feeding on those people, or taking care of those people, is money spent on them. It has a reward that will go on for a bit. There is a sadaqah jariyah in that, right? So we plant our seeds in fertile land. We look for fertile lands. And then another thing that a farmer does is they protect the seed. And how do they protect the seed? By weeding. By if there are weeds that come out, and they will come out because it's soil, and there will be weeds that will come out, then the farmer does weeding. He removes the weeds, because if the weeds keep coming, then the weeds will take all the nutrition. But he needs the nutrition to go to the seed. So he'll take the weeds out, and he'll make sure he'll water the seed off and on, and he'll make sure he'll not take the seed out, and like he'll keep it under the soil until it grows up and everything, which we will. So there are some things that can nullify our sadaqah, that can take away from our rewards, and which we'll learn in the next ayah number 262. So a farmer, what that does is he protects the seed. And another thing he does is he plants in the season of planting. So there are so at different times in there are different needs that come up, and for every generation, for every time, for every place that we live in, there are different needs that are there. And sometimes it is important to find out where is the need more, and what is the need of the hour, where do I need to spend more at the moment. And then when we spend those things, obviously there is a more reward. So for example, when it was the time of Tabuk in the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a time, that was a time of war, that was a time that everything was needed, there were weapons needed, there were things needed. So then it was advisable to spend on that thing, rather than going to spend to build another masjid or things like that, right? And sometimes, and what is today's big need? If we look at that, today's big vice is jahalat, is ignorance. Yes, people are very intelligent and intellectual in terms of the sciences of the world, or the technology, or what they can do with their computers, or this and that. But the spiritual, there is a spiritual void that we are seeing in people all around us, and we are seeing it increasing, and we are and that is also a cause of a lot of mental health issues, lot of other things. When people are generally, they have everything and yet they're unhappy, yet they're not satisfied with whatever they have, and they keep doing things that are harming themselves and other people around them. And they're just not, and the same person who has so many qualities, sometimes you wonder that they could be doing so much for the sake of Allah, if only they were and they're putting efforts in other fields. If only they were putting their efforts for the sake of Allah, then they would be doing something so much more meaningful, right? And so today's big need is to spend on ilm, to spend on beneficial ilm, to spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to 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 help people connect their hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the big need of today. So in today's day and age, if we spend on that, that's a very good place to spend in, wherever we can spend. And there are thousands of, there are different places that we can spend. We can do things ourselves, we can use our own time and resources, or we can spend money on places that will help such causes, or people who are doing such things, supporting them in different ways and things possible. There could be all different ways of spending. Then how does Allah Ta'ala give back? And does he give back in this world or the akhirah? The thing is, Allah Ta'ala gives us a little bit in this world as well, and he will give us a lot in the akhirah. So in this life, the purpose is he gives us only a little in this life. But the point is, if he were to give us a lot in this life, then we won't be able to handle it. So for example, if I give 1 kilo of let's say butter, one kg butter or ghee, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then let's say tomorrow I get 700 kilos of ghee or butter, then what will I do with these 700 kilos? Like, this life is something in which, if we get too much of something, we don't know what to do with it. Then I'm looking for, like, okay, I don't want it to go bad. If I get, so supposing two of my friends bring food for me the same day, or three of my friends bring food, and I have a lot of food, then I start worrying, like, what do I do with this food? Okay, I can only eat this much. I don't want it to go waste. Who do I give, and how can I, like, make sure that it's not wasted and things like that. So even in that, there is Allah's wisdom, that he does not give us too much in this world of anything, because too much we won't be able to handle it. This dunya itself is a little, right? And so what it tells us is to have belief, and to believe in Allah's promise that he will give us more. But he will give us more when we'll be able to handle it, because in Jannah nothing will go bad. No food will ever go bad there, nothing will go bad there, right? So he will give us a lot there, but he also, he doesn't hold back from us in this life either. Like, when we give sadaqah, the Prophet ﷺ told us, wealth does not decrease from sadaqah. So when you give sadaqah, have full belief that when you're giving, then you will get something back. SubhanAllah, I would like to share one thing, that one of my like my children, actually, we were talking about this some years back. They were literal then, and we were talking about this, about charity and everything, and wealth doesn't increase. And they didn't tell me this, told me this later, and they both had $1 each. And they said that me and my sister, both of us, were talking about it, and we thinking, okay, let's give it for the sake of Allah, and then we will see what happens. So they put it, I think, in the masjid charity box, or they gave it to somebody. So they gave that, and they told us later that, within a month, somehow, like, we met some relatives, somebody gave us some money, or this and that, we had $100 each, both of us. And we were like, this is true, what Allah said, subhanAllah. And but this is just a child's way of looking at it. But then, even for us as adults, when we give for the sake of Allah, Allah Ta'ala does not deprive us of anything, because of, on the from the seen world, we might be thinking, I've lost this $100, I used to have 100, I've lost this. But then, if we look back, let's say a few months after that, then Allah Ta'ala makes things easy for us. Allah Ta'ala puts more barakah in whatever we have, and he gives us more as well. Another thing is that in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala has given us a metaphor. He's explained us through an example of a seed. And one thing is that um, when we speak to somebody, and Allah Ta'ala teaches us also the way of speaking to somebody, the way of talking to somebody, is we should keep in mind the mental level of the listeners. Who are the people who are listening? And then tell them according to their level of understanding. So Allah Ta'ala is using this example of a seed and everything because this creates a mental picture in our mind and makes it easy to understand. Allah Ta'ala does not need these examples for us to, He knows everything. He knows already that He's going to multiply everything. He's giving us these examples because He wants us to understand, and He makes it easy for us to understand. So even when we are talking, we are talking to somebody, or we are inviting somebody to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we are trying to explain some concept, then it is a good idea to use examples from real life, to give examples of things that that person watches or sees on a day-to-day basis that's a part of their life, because then it becomes easier for them to understand. And another thing here is in this ayah, alladhina yunfiquna. It could be said in the terms of the one who spends, right? And it could also be used as the thing that is spent of the mal, right? So it could be used and understood in both these senses, and both are valid. And here, another thing here is the way Allah Ta'ala is motivating us to spend is that it's almost like when we think of a business opportunity or something, and somebody's saying to us, do you want to know about a great business opportunity? Do you want to know about a great scheme or a great thing? And how much do you want to increase your wealth? Do you want to increase what you have? Do you want to increase your blessings? Then this is the way, right? And this is such a beautiful way of motivating somebody and encouraging us to do some good. The style is not the style of asking people to do sadaqah and spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not that, you should give something. Allah's deen needs you, and we need you for this goal and everything. Usually we use this kind of tone in our fundraising efforts, that the deen of Allah needs you and you should do this and everything. But subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala does not teach us that in the Quran. He's teaching us the other way, not a negative way, but a very positive way of looking at it. Do you want your things to be multiplied? Do you want, a person will quickly think that, okay, this is a new project. I need to think about it. I need to put money in it. So when we think of these things, we get very positive and everything. Allah Ta'ala calls us to spend in His way, in a very positive way in everything. And then He calls us to spend on fi sabilillah, towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for anything to qualify as sabilillah, fi sabilillah, is that one, it should be done to obtain the pleasure of Allah. And second, it should be done according to the guidance given by Allah. So we shouldn't spend in the ways, like for example, I want to help somebody, but I don't want to, even if I want to help somebody, but what they want to do with that money is they want to open a liquor store. Then I'm sorry, although you might be serving, but if the money that I give you, you're going to use it to open a liquor store, then no, I will not give that money, because that is not according to the guidance of Islam, right? And it could be done for fi sabilillah, could be used for anything that is done for the benefit of Islam and for Muslims, and for the creation of Allah, any creation of Allah, for warming somebody's heart towards Islam, and we spend some money towards that. Like the Prophet ﷺ, for some people, the Prophet ﷺ gave them lots and lots and lots and lots of Male Ghanim. After the Fatah Makkah, some people who had not yet converted to Islam, but they had accompanied Muslims in the war, then when the Muslims got a lot of war booty, then the Nabi Sallallahu gave these people so generously that these people were like literally, if we were to calculate in today's day and time, it would be millions of dollars. While the Prophet Prophet's own household was like they said that they never cooked two meals. They always had just like one meal. They had such a simple living, and yet the Prophet ﷺ did not take any money for himself, and he gave so much to these people that they were amazed by his generosity, and they were like, he couldn't there is no way that this person could not be a prophet of Allah, because how could anybody be so unattached to wealth, so unattached that he's just giving and he doesn't even care what will happen tomorrow. He's giving like that, so he could nobody can give like that, and even that brought their heart closer to Islam. So sometimes spending on somebody, and that is one of the places where if we see that spending on that person will warm their heart towards Islam, then that is also considered fi sabilillah. That is also considered something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another thing here is that this, like we said, sabil is something that joins in origin with the destinations, and our destination is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want not just Jannah, we want Jannatul Firdaus, and not just Jannatul Firdaus, we want to have the highest pleasure of Jannatul Firdaus, which is being able to see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being able to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being able to share and say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, I'm pleased with you, Ya Allah. And having Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to us that, oh my servant, oh my slave, I'm pleased with you as well. And that is our goal. That is our ultimate goal. And fi sabilillah, doing things fi sabilillah is as a path towards that goal. It takes us towards that goal, right? And so this is a way to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we want to do connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing something, that is our biggest advantage of doing something. Yes, Allah ta'ala will give us returns, but then there is a big, just by going on that path, we are getting even a bigger return, which is that we are getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing is any thing that we are spending which is not bringing us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is not connecting us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not fi sabilillah, is not in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, if somebody is giving a lot of donations to the masjid for the masjid to be built and everything, but he or she himself doesn't pray their salah, then that is not included in fi sabilillah. Because yes, you're giving your money to build a masjid, but you need to pray too, right? And or if somebody's giving but they have a lot of love of wealth in their heart and they're not able to let go, in their minds they're like, oh, I gave so much, oh, I gave so much, oh, I gave so much. If that keeps bothering them, then that's not fi sabilillah. There's not love in it, right? And another thing with fi sabilillah is we give all the time. It's not like I got very motivated and think today, so today I'm going to give like 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever, and then for a whole year I'm like gone. I'm like, okay, yeah, I gave those 10,000. Remember, I gave those 10,000. Like even I'm telling myself, remember I gave this much. Remember I gave this much. Oh, you're good. You don't need to give anymore. No, you give all the time, and you give in all circumstances. So sometimes I might be able to give $10,000. Sometimes I might be able to give 10 cents. That's okay. Whatever I have, I give from that. Allah Ta'ala is Ghani. He does not need us. He gives us these opportunities, and no matter how much we have, Allah Ta'ala can put blessings in very little and make it a lot, right? So we don't wait for the time that I'll have enough wealth that I'll start giving. Whatever I have, I start giving. I give from that. If I don't have money, I give from my time. If I don't have time, if I have knowledge, then I give from my knowledge. If I have, so no matter what Allah Ta'ala has given me and what I can give, I give from that. And we do all of that, right? And the thing is, until we consider whatever I have belongs to Allah anyway, it will be very hard to give. So when I understand that what I own is Allah's anyway, and until I think that my account is Allah's account, then giving fi sabilillah will not be easy. Giving fi sabilillah becomes easier, and we don't need more motivation when we realize that this is Allah's account. This is Allah's thing. I am belong to Allah. Whatever I own belongs to Allah. And then when there is an opportunity that comes up to spend for His sake, then I should spend whatever I can spend. It is for my own benefit, right? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that make us spend, those who spend so much in such a way that from our hearts the love of wealth goes away. The love of wealth goes away, because any wealth any love that is in our heart, which is a lot, competes with the love of Allah, right? Because the core of our heart should be with the love, for the love of Allah. So Allah Ta'ala wants us to utilize all these things, stay in this dunya, but not be attached to this dunya, right? So for example, like a boat is, some scholars give this example of a boat which is floating on a water. A boat needs water. A ship needs water. Yes, it will float on the water, but if that same water starts to come inside the ship, then it will drown the ship, right? So we have dunya in our hands, but we don't have it in our heart. Whether it is our wealth, or whether it is people, whether it is our families, whether it is anything else, we love them, we do things for them, but the core of our heart has to be for Allah. And that through spending, Allah Ta'ala also purifies our heart from the love of wealth, from the fear of losing wealth, from the security that we feel of having a certain amount of wealth. Allah Ta'ala wants us to have that security, guide having that feeling of security towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than having security in my bank balance, having a feeling of comfort with my bank balance. I have a feeling of comfort with knowing that my Rabb is there for me, right? And yes, He's given me this much, whatever I have, He's given me that anyway. If I spend that, He'll give me more, and I have full faith in that. Right. So, for example, just like a farmer, what he does is when a farmer has his crops and everything, he harvests everything. Then he uses some of the seeds for his own family. He sells some of the seeds to make money, and then he preserves some of those seeds to again plant them, right? And from his crops. Now, if you look at it, it might, whatever he's planting again might feel like a loss, but he knows that when he puts it in the soil, he craves that this seed will not get wasted and a crop will come out of it. Similarly, when we give for the sake of Allah, at the onset, in the beginning, it might feel that we are losing something from our hand, but Allah Ta'ala will give us, and He'll give us in a way that we couldn't have even imagined. He'll put so much care and so much barakah in it, as long as we are doing it fi sabilillah, as long as we're doing it for the sake of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. However, it's also known that if a seed gets rotten, or if it gets infested by certain pests or things like that, then it will go bad, and that we Allah Ta'ala tells us in the next ayah that even if we do good things, sometimes we might ruin it. So sometimes they might get ruined. So we have to protect them. We don't have to just put our crops. Doing good deeds is easy, but our scholars say protecting the good deeds is much harder than doing the good deeds actually, because uh, when we do good deeds, sometimes Shaitan cannot stop us from doing good deeds. But what Shaitan does is Shaitan likes to then waste our good deeds, some things that we have done, and then he wants to take it away from us, because obviously he does not want us to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But inshallah, Allah ta'ala has shown us the way to him, and he's also shown us the way to protect whatever we do for his sake, right? And he's shown us how to do that. And just one little point before we go to the next ayah is the two names that the two things that Allah Ta'ala told us here is that he's Wasi' and he is Al-Alim, right? And we talked about Al-Alim, and Wasi also means that he has vast resources and he has limitless treasures which are infinite, which cannot be exhausted, and he's very liberal in giving rewards to, right? Like, for example, if I work for a company and I have a very generous boss or something, and they are like, forever, I earn, like, my salary is say 2,000, and they are my boss is so generous that every time in my every salary I see like, oh no, you did this thing very good, this other day, this customer, you were like so good to this client or this customer and everything, so you get a $500 bonus, and or you get a $3,000 bonus. I'm like, my salary was 2,000 and they're giving me a bonus of 3,000 just for being nice to one customer, and I was doing my job anyway. But then I'd be like, wow, my boss is so generous. And so Allah Ta'ala is telling us that He is wasi'ah. You think generosity, you see generosity around you, Allah Ta'ala is the most liberal in giving rewards. And when He gives rewards, He gives behisab. Like He gives without any count. And He multiplies for whom He wills. By this, we mean that whatever Allah, sometimes some people think, okay, He gives liman yasha. We see this phrase a lot in the Quran, that He gives to whoever He wills. Does that mean that, okay, if He did not will for me, then what can I do? Right? Some people bring this contention. No, but it does not mean that Allah Ta'ala just gives randomly. It means that whatever Allah wishes or desires. And when we say Subhanallah, we say that we say Allah's protection, perfection, that He is not, He stays perfect all the time, right? So whatever Allah Ta'ala wishes or desires, it is never in contradiction to the demands of justice or wisdom. So if Allah Ta'ala wants something, or if Allah Ta'ala wills something, that is the most just anyway, because He is perfect. He's never any less than perfect. So He wishes increase only for those who truly deserve it, right? Who had good intentions in the first place, who did something, and he's the one who knows that, who knows who has what much. And another thing by liman yasha is that no one can stop Him from what He wills. If Allah Ta'ala has willed for goodness to come to me, then the whole world might get together and they will not be able to stop it from coming to me, because Allah has willed it to me. And sometimes we are surprised, we are awed by Allah's generosity and with the reward, and we inshallah, when we go to Jannah, then we will be even more amazed and awed by the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that time is to remind us that Allah ta'ala is infinitely great and He's fully aware of everything. So we have no cause to worry about losing our rewards for anything. And what are the ways that we could lose? So Allah Ta'ala will not make us lose our reward, but we can do it. And that's what we need to protect ourselves from. That and we have our enemy who's always there to steal it from us. Right? Allah Ta'ala is not going to stop it from us, but our enemy is there to steal it, and we have our own nafs. So we have to protect it from two things. And what is protection against? That the reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't know how much we'll get. That is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we give to some people, for example, people don't just want wealth, but as human beings, we all want and deserve respect as well. So Islam doesn't want people to just be have their physical needs met, but their spiritual and mental and emotional needs met as well. So, for example, things that spoil our charity is one is to show our favor, like to show that what did I do for you? I did this for you or did that for you, because that makes a person uncomfortable. So if I have received somebody has done something for me when I was, let's say, I was in a hard time and somebody gave me some money and I was able to survive that time, I'll be thankful to them. But if they expect me to every time they come near me to stand up and say thank you every time I meet them and do that, then I will start to feel a bit disrespected. I will start to be like, why did I take that money? I shouldn't have taken that money, like I so making showing reminding people again and again of their generosity, of your generosity, makes people uncomfortable and makes people, like people don't like it, we don't like it, and other person wouldn't like it either. So, and adan would be anything that is a cause of a pain or injury, anything that hurts somebody, right? So which could be physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, any kind of thing. And usually these two concepts, mannan and adan, they usually would go together. So for example, usually a person who keeps reminding people of generosity would also be a person who would try to hurt them, like, or insult them or everything. So why do people do that? When people who are a bit shallow inside, may Allah Ta'ala protect us from being them. And if we are there, if any of us is there, may Allah Ta'ala, if I am like that, may Allah Ta'ala change me to be somebody that He likes. And if anybody else is like that, may Allah Ta'ala change us to be some better as well. But anytime anybody who's shallow, when they spend of someone, what they want is they want that this unfortunate person whom I spent on, they should remain under my obligation forever. They should be like that. And if that person sense that, the person I helped or something is not that obliged or whatever, then they feel a bit irritated and they start taunting them off and on. Whenever they meet them, they're either taunting them or they're belittling them or humiliating them or saying nasty things to them, because they feel that they deserve a certain level of looking up to, which they're not getting. So they keep belittling this other person. And this is something which is mannan and adan. And these two concepts would usually go together like that. A person would belittle them, and then that would cause them hurt as well. Keep reminding them and insulting the other person, or saying, like, you were worth nothing. I did this for you. You could not have done anything on your own. There are many things. We live in a society that we know these things. We know people who are not kind to other people, and we know things like giving charity and then keep clicking pictures with them. And sometimes, we do that. We sit with people. We see these things, that there's a family, and we see this so much. May Allah Ta'ala protect us, that there's a charity which is given to a family who's suffering, who doesn't have food, and then somebody would be sitting with them and clicking pictures with them, and the mother or the person sitting there behind is crying, and they're like taking pictures. Okay, we fed them, they were so hungry, and we fed them food, and we got all this for them, and look at all this food that we got for them. And the woman there is crying, and subhanallah, she does not like this being photographed and made like using her misery to feel better about yourself, and advertising her misery for that sake. But she has no option to just sit there and just accept, um, let you humiliate her, let herself be humiliated, because she needs that food for her family and everything. So she has no no choice but to do this. But subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala teaches us that don't do this. Don't follow what you have done with reminders of your generosity, and don't cause any hurt to the people that you're giving your things to. In fact, in one of the saying, Abdul Rahman bin Zaid, rahimullah, he told that his father said to him that if you give something to someone, and then if you feel that when you go to them or you meet them, if you say salam to them, then it might be uncomfortable for them. Just you're saying salam because they might feel that you're seeking some benefit in return or anything, then don't even say salam to them. Then just like try not to even be there and everything. So Islam is so sensitive to other people's self-respect and perceptions, because the feeling of being poor and in need is very bad. It's very hurtful. But the feeling of being humiliated and being disrespected is even worse than poverty. And so, what we definitely should take care of it is we shouldn't remind others of our generosity. We shouldn't mistreat them or humiliate them. We shouldn't hurt their feelings, and of course, not hurt them physically or any other way, and make them do extra work and everything. Hey, don't taunt them. Don't say things like like, especially in Indian subcontinent we see that, and how maids are treated, for example. Don't say that, you're living on our thing, like whatever we give to you, that's what you're living on, so you should forever be grateful. And people not always say it, but they imply it. They do things and like that. And sometimes we see some people, they give thousands in donation, but in their own home, to their own domestic help, they wouldn't give food respectfully to them. They would take out another set of dishes and they would give food in that and everything, and they would not be allowed to eat from the same dishes. May Allah Ta'ala forgive us. May Allah Ta'ala forgive us and make us understand that if we see ourselves and the maids that we have in the Indian subcontinent, then both of us have the same flesh. We have two eyes, ears, nose. Both of us are human beings. Yet, what was the quality in me that I am living this life and she is living that kind of life? Did I have control over the kind of life that I was living? And do I give respect like I want respect? Yeah, and also another thing that we learn, it's very easy to go from low to up, but it is hard to go from higher to a lower level. So another thing that our scholars teach us is that don't make your kids so used to luxury and desires that if any struggles come in their life, they're not, and struggles will come in their life too, just like they've come in our life, and that they're not able to cope. Like help, don't give them so much luxury. Like help them to be a little bit tough as well, right? And so another example, for just for the sake of this, is like, for example, there's a maid and she has a need of running her house, and we have a need to our work. So yes, there's no harm in employing her, but pay her enough that at least her family can be fed and taken care of. And if you are irritated by, and that happens a lot in our country, there's like everybody's always irritated of like she keeps our maid, she keeps asking for this money, she keeps asking for this thing, rather than having her to ask again and again. Why don't you just increase your salary herself? And it won't like we don't we pay so much for flights. When we take a flight from, let's say, here to India, or when we're taking any flight to anywhere, we don't we are paying thousands upon thousands of dollars. Yet for like 5 rupees or something, which is not even a dollar for us, when we go and we are traveling on rickshaws and things like that, we are negotiating with them. No, no, we won't give you this much, we won't give you. But rather, those who are in need, give them more yourself. If they ask for 10 rupees, yes, go, but at the end of 10 rupees, give him like 50 rupees extra. There's no harm in that, right? And then those people who are in need, and then don't make them feel bad about it. Don't say before, I'll give you more. So they are expected, so they feel that they're expected to treat you a bit better or something. Just give them more while leaving. Like, okay, this was agreed upon, just keep this as well. And then just, so we can, if we want to do things nicely, we can find things to do things nicely. We are all intelligent beings, we can do it, but it's just paying a bit more attention to how we are making another person feel while we are doing this, right? And subhanallah, Allah Ta'ala is teaching us, as He's made us an ummah, He's also teaching us through this book how to be good human beings. Yes, a lot of us might have these qualities, but through the Quran, Allah Ta'ala teaches us if we have those qualities, then it is a good quality to have. Allah Ta'ala approves of it, and then we should keep it. Even if the world around us tells us you're too sensitive, you're too like, oh, you're too soft, people take advantage of you, or like, you're like, oh, come on, you're like always like thinking of what you do for this person. Like, who is doing anything for you? Why are you so bothered about other people? Like we can hear things like that, and it might feel like, am I doing the right thing? Am I being, and it might get to us, because if so many people around us are saying you're, yeah, you're like, those other people are taking advantage of you, right? This one takes advantage of you, right? And we might feel at some point that, yeah, Allah, is this right or wrong? Tell me, should I do this? And Allah Ta'ala teaches us that, keep doing good. Don't understand, try to feel what other people are feeling and be empathetic towards it, towards other people, and then keep doing this. And He's teaching us to be good human beings. And if we don't have those qualities, Allah Ta'ala is encouraging us to develop those qualities. And He's showing us how to develop these qualities. He shows us the way even, right? وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. He gives us the tawfiq and He shows us through this Quran steps. And in the beginning of Surah Fatiha, we ask Allah Ta'ala to show us the way, right? اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. And through this Quran, throughout this Quran, Allah Ta'ala will keep showing us the way. How do we take the way? Ya Allah, make us of those people who don't hurt other people's hearts, who take care of the heart of other people, don't become the cause of bringing any pain to anybody's heart, and make us big in your eyes rather than our own eyes. Right? And when we do this, when we spend something for the sake of Allah, sometimes a fear of poverty might come. Shaitan tries to bring this fear of poverty in, that, what, you're giving this, you have to do this 2 months from now. How will you have money for that if you give all of this here and everything? But those who believe, what they do is they don't regret spending. If they spent anything for the path of Allah, they don't regret it. And they are not influenced by the waswasa of shaitan, of the fear of, economic future, that what are you going to have this money, do this and that. And then Allah Ta'ala rewards them in a similar way, because they did not feel the fear about their future or the grief of what they spent. Allah Ta'ala will, for these people, which are free from this, like from these waswasa, from these blemishes in this character, from not showing off, from not hurting other people, and from not being grieved by what they have spent already and everything. They don't feel bad about, oh, I spent so much for this cause. Maybe I shouldn't have, and everything. I should have kept it for myself. And they have sabr on their good deeds. They keep their good deeds and they stay firm on their good deeds. Then Allah Ta'ala gives them no fear in the for the future, and no grief for the past. And in Jannah, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will make us such that we will have no fear for the future, and then we will not have any grief of our past either. Whatever troubles we feel in this world, Allah Ta'ala will make it worth it for us. Whatever hardships, and each one of us faces hardships, and there's no single human being who does not have hardships. We all have hardships of our own kind. And whatever we have, Allah Ta'ala will make us understand the wisdom behind them. He will, sometimes we might not see the wisdom behind some of the struggles that we are facing, but Allah Ta'ala will show us the wisdom and we will be pleased. And it is a leap of faith to understand, Ya Allah, I don't understand it now, but I know I will be pleased. And because you told me I will be pleased. So I have full faith that I will be pleased. And whatever I'm facing for myself, my family, for whoever, my children, my husband, my parents, whatever I'm facing, whatever is hurting me, whatever is impacting my heart, and yet I'm doing something for your sake, whatever little whatever little I'm able to do with your tawfiq, obviously, then for that I will be rewarded. You will not let it go in vain, and you will not let this pain stay with me, because this will change into something good for me. And regarding this ayah, it's said by Al-Kalbi that it was revealed regarding Uthman ibn Affan and Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu. So Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu, what he did was he went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with 4,000 dirhams in charity, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I had 8,000 and I left 4,000 for myself and my family, and I'm giving 4,000 fi sabilillah. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, such a beautiful reply. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, may Allah Ta'ala bless you for what you have kept and for what you have given. Subhanallah. Like, he didn't say, like, okay, why did you leave the 4,000 home? You could have brought those as well. You don't need 4,000 for your family. You could have left 1,000 for your family and given 7,000 charity. Neither did he say, oh, no, why are you giving 4,000 and everything? You should in this, everything. No, the Prophet ﷺ said that both of these things, may Allah Ta'ala reward you for both of them, for what you have kept and for what you have given. Subhanallah. What a beautiful response. Something that there is, like, there was a reason that the Sahabas loved him so much. There was a reason of his character, his words, where imagine somebody's giving the charity and then the Prophet of Allah himself is telling you, may Allah bless you for what you're giving and for what you have kept in your home as well. It will just warm the person's heart. Like, how would you not love such a person? And another thing was Uthman radiallahu anhu. He said at the time of the book that I'll equip those who are not equipped for military campaign, and he gave like 1,000 camels to Muslims with all the, all the saddles and blankets and whatever else was needed. 1,000 camels means a fortune. Like one camel at that time could be, we could think of equivalent of today's time, one Ferrari or one Lamborghini, right? And he's giving 1,000 camels. It's a fortune, and all equipped with everything, saddles and blankets and everything for the battle of Tabuk. And he's giving all of this. And Al-Kalbi said this verse was revealed regarding that. And in another narration, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said that I saw Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam raise his hands and supplicate for Uthman radiallahu anhu, saying, "O my Lord, Ya Rab, verily I am pleased with Uthman ibn Affan, so you be pleased with him as well." And he remained with his hands raised in dua until dawn, until Fajr time. He kept his hands raised and kept making dua for Uthman radiallahu anhu. Subhanallah, just because he had given so much for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And then Allah ta'ala tells us that saying a good word is our graceful word, and a kind speech and forgiveness, they are better than charity followed by injury. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free of need and forbearing. So rich people generally that we know is they generally snub the poor. And what that does is they, although they're giving charity, but they are snubbing them. So what happens is instead of good, this is earning them a lot of sin. So in camera, people are very kind to other people, but as soon as the camera switches off, we see the other side of it, right? And subhanallah, Quran is persuading the people who have, and being rich is not a bad thing in Islam. Islam does not want us to be poor. Does not, there's no glorification in being a miskeen. Yes, if we are miskeen, then we have sabr and try to improve things. But if we have riches, it's nothing to feel sorry about. If Allah Ta'ala has given us something, it's nothing to feel bad about, but how we utilize it is a good thing. So our Quran is teaching the rich people to spend monetarily on the poor people, and also improve their mentality and improve their character with regards to giving. So what it also teaches us is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Halim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forbearing. What that means is we have a lot of shortcomings and we make so many mistakes, yet Allah Ta'ala forgives us, and He keeps on forgiving us and still gives us blessings and bounties, and He keeps giving us and keeps giving us and keeps giving us, right? And if Allah were to hold His provision because of our sins, because of my sins, if Allah Ta'ala were to stop giving me, then I would not be able to survive. It is a fact. The kind of sins, the kind of mistakes that I have done and I keep doing, if Allah Ta'ala were to take me to account for each one of them, I would not be eating the next meal. I would not be breathing the next breath. I would not be doing it. But it is Allah's hilm. It is His forbearance that He still keeps giving me. He forgives me. He keeps on forgiving me, and He keeps giving me. And what Allah Ta'ala wants is He likes to see His qualities reflected in the behavior and attitude of His servants. That's what pleases Him, right? So, and when we want Allah's pleasure, then what should we do? We should try to develop this quality, whatever we are able to, right? Or obviously Allah's quality are limitless. We have a limit. Yet whatever we are able to, we should try to follow His example and try to develop this characteristic in ourselves. What does that mean? Sometimes when people who are asking us for some help, they might approach us in a very improper or unsuitable manner. They might irritate us. They might frustrate us. They might or they might be very disrespectful, or they might be very, rude or ill-mannered and everything. Even if somebody approaches us in that way, then forgive them and speak to them in a good manner. Have that compassion and forbearance. Because why? Because Allah has this kind of compassion towards me, and Allah wants me to show this. Now when Allah has given me something, then I can give from it, right? Allah showing me He is ghani, He is self-sufficient. He, first of all, He does not need me to do anything for anybody. If Allah Ta'ala wants the riches to reach someone, He can let it reach by Himself. But He's allowed me to, this is an opportunity that Allah Ta'ala has given me to serve somebody, to give to somebody. So I should try to develop ihsan in this, to develop the best way of giving it. And even to the point, to the level that I even speak to the person that I'm giving in a good manner, in a manner that I encourage them. When somebody comes to ask for me for something, I talk to them. I put in a good word. I try to say something nice to them. I try, if somebody is upset, I try to make them feel a little bit better as well, rather than giving something, other than giving something as well, and everything. And we can remember from the hadith that of Aisha Radhiyallahu that she always said that whenever she would give, she would put perfume, and she would remind us of the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ told us that when you give, the charity does not go in the hand of the person, it goes to Allah's hand first, right? And we should think about it before we turn anybody away, or when we need some changes in our attitude or our behavior towards other people. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who give for His sake and who keep giving for His sake. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who keep earning forgiveness from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and who are able to develop hilm in ourselves, who are able to give to people even though the same people that we give to don't show their thankfulness. But that's okay. We don't need their thankfulness. We are doing it for, even if they were to thank us or thank us, they will not be able to, what can they do us for us, the people? If I'm doing something, let's say for my brother, what can he do for me? The best he can do for me is thank me. Then he might be able to give me some gifts or something like that. That's a small deal. That's a small return for what I did. I want a bigger return, and my Rabb can give me a bigger return. So why look at a person to return the favor of what I do for my husband, my children, even my parents, even, or my community, or anybody, anything? Why to look at the return from people? I will seek my return from Allah, because He'll give me more. I want more from what I do. Subhanallah. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who earn His pleasure, who are able to connect to Him, who spend fi sabilillah so that we are connected to Allah Ta'ala. And may Allah Ta'ala look at us with His pleasure. May Allah Ta'ala help us to earn His pleasure. And may Allah Ta'ala make us companions in Jannatul Firdaus and under the shade of His arsh on the day of judgment, when there'll be no shade except His, just like He has brought us together in this world as sisters in Islam. May Allah Ta'ala forgive any shortcomings. Any goodness that comes from this talk is from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala alone, because He is the possessor of all good. All khair comes from Him. And any shortcomings, any mistakes, I'm a human, and definitely I make mistakes. I would have made them. There are slips of tongue that happen. There are things that are quoted which are like misquoted sometimes and everything. So may Allah Ta'ala, or some names which are incorrectly said or incorrectly pronounced, or some things that are done. May Allah Ta'ala forgive me for my shortcomings, and may Allah Ta'ala keep the khair running until the day of judgment. May Allah Ta'ala reward both of you and whoever else who listens to these recordings later on, or who benefits from this in any way. May Allah Ta'ala make this reward last. May Allah Ta'ala inspire people to do good. May Allah Ta'ala inspire me to do good, and may Allah Ta'ala inspire anybody else who listen to this to do more fi sabilillah and to connect more towards Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And may Allah Ta'ala preserve all of our rewards till the end of judgment. May Allah Ta'ala till the day of judgment. May Allah Ta'ala not make us of those people who earn so much and then they become bankrupt by losing to show off, or losing to causing hurt to people. May Allah Ta'ala preserve us and our rewards, and may Allah Ta'ala reward us for everything. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.